Welcome back. Today we're going to be continuing on with graphing absolute value function. Before we get started, let's go ahead and review what it means to use parent function. Parent function is the most basic form of a graph. Remember, the most basic form to speak of vertex is at 0, 0, and that there are no shifts or reflections. Two videos ago, we talked about the quadratic. Remember, that's alpha is equal to squared, and that looks like a U-shaped graph. We'll be looking at square roots later, but today what we're going to be doing is dealing with the absolute value graph. So that's equal to absolute value. First off, let's just quickly review what it means to be an absolute value. So remember, absolute value is the distance away from 0. So if we take the absolute value of 5, how far is 5 away from 0? 5. Now if we take the absolute value of negative 5, how far is negative 5 away from 0? 5. The absolute value is always going to be positive. Alright, let's go ahead and review the pattern. Again, we're going to start at 0, 0. I think this pattern is the easiest actually. It's going to be the exact same as the quadratic in the first step. I'm going to go right one, up one, because the first step is absolute. Vertex is at 0, 0. So the absolute value of 1 is 1. That's why I go right one, up one. Now I'm going to go right 2, up 2. And that's because the absolute value of 2 is 2. And then you continue the pattern up the left. Left 1, up 1. It's left 1, up 1 because the absolute value of negative 1, how far is negative 1 away from 0? It's going to be positive. And I'm going to go left 2, up 2 because the absolute value of negative 2 is 2. Alright, let's compare. Here's a transform function. First, what do you notice? You notice that there's a negative sign, so you know it's going to be a reflection, so it's going to be a vertical split. Where is my vertex located? I went to the left one. Then I went up 2. And it opens down. On the next video, you're going to be writing the equation, so if you notice, again from that video, look, plus 1 means left 1. Plus 2 means up 2. And because a reflection, it's going to open down. Alright, so here's the general equation of what an absolute value. Again, all absolute value equations will have these absolute value bars. That is when you'll know the shape of the graph BAV. Okay. This A right here is either going to be, if A is 1, it's going to open up, and if A is negative 1, it's going to open down. This H right here is the horizontal shift. Remember, that's left and right, and it's always the opposite of the side. And K right here is the vertical, remember that's the up or down, and it's always the same sign as the direction. In order to get the vertex, I'm going to do H, comma, K. All what we're going to do is I'm going to give you a transform function, and we are going to identify the shifts and the reflections. So first off, number 1, we see that there are reflections. Since there's no negative sign before that absolute value, it's a no. All right, the horizontal shift, remember that's the inside, and it's always the opposite. So plus 2 really means left. The vertical shift, that's always out of the absolute value. It's the same sign, but if it's minus 5, that means it's down 5. And once we put it all together, my vertex, if I go left 2, I'm at negative 2, and down 5. It's negative 2 to negative 5. All right, number 2. Again, you see absolute value bars, so you know the shape of the graph is going to be a V. But before those absolute values, you see a negative. So is there a reflection? Yes, that means it's going to open downward. The horizontal shift number is always inside those absolute values. This one's opposite, so -4 means right forward. And the vertical shift is always outside those absolute value bars, and it's the same sign, so +7 means up 7. Put it all together, if I go right 4, I'm at +4, up 7, I'm at +7. My vertex is 4, comma 7. All right, and lastly, number 3. Again, I'm dealing with a V-shaped graph because you see those absolute value bars. But again, you see a negative sign in front. That shows you that there is going to be a reflection and it's going to open downward. Now, do you notice there's not a number inside the absolute value bars? That means there is not a horizontal shift. There's a +6 outside, so that means it's going to be up 6. So if I don't move left or right, well, I'll start at 0 and I just go up 6. My vertex is 0, 6. All right, let's go ahead and try to graph. All right, first thing you should notice, I see absolute value bars. So I know my graph is going to look like opening up and it's going to be a V. It's opening up because there's no negatives, so there's not a reflection. The horizontal shift number is -5 here. So that means it's going to be right 5. This -4 means it's down 4. To put it all together, if I go right 5, I'm at +5, down 4, I'm at -4. Again, we'll do the domain analysis after we graph. The first thing I do is graph that vertex of 5, -4. So 5, -4. And now I'm just going to remember my pattern. All right, remember my pattern is right 1, up 1, return to the vertex. Right 2, remember with the quadratic, the U, I go up 4. But with the absolute value, I just go up 2 and start making my V. Continue to the vertex. And you're going to continue on the left side. So left 1, up 1, back to the vertex, left 2, up 2. Now I could keep going. If you notice, like I could keep going and keep making my V, but you don't have to. You just need to graph a minimum of the initial 5. Graph V, and it clearly makes the V. All right, so my domain, since I got arrows on both sides, it's all real numbers. Now my range, it's going to be very similar to calculating my range with my quadratics. Again, my vertex is 5 and -4. Since the range is the y, I'm going to be dealing with -4. Since it opens up, it's going to be greater than or equal to that -4. All right, now we're going to talk about finding the value of f of 7. Remember, 7 is the x value. So here, find f of 7. So go to the x-axis at 7. And I know f of 7 will be at -2. All right, let's go on to the next question. Number 5. Again, you see absolute value bar. So that's your hint that it's going to be a V-shaped graph. But before that absolute value, you see a negative. So you know it's going to be the absolute value of V-shaped graph opening down. So yes, there is a reflection. The horizontal shift always comes from inside those absolute value bars. +3 is left 3. And since there's nothing outside those absolute values, there is not a vertical shift, so there's none, so I don't go up at all. So left 3 is -3, and since I don't go up at all, it's 0. All right, let's go ahead and graph this. So again, I'm going to start graphing my vertex, -3, comma 0. And since my absolute value is going to be going down, I'm going to go right 1, down 1 instead of up 1. Return to the vertex. Right 2, do you guys remember the pattern? Down 2. Remember we go down 4 with the quadratic, the U-shaped graph. Return to the vertex. I go left 1, down 1. Go back to the vertex. Left 2, down 2. Now again, I could keep going and making the V, but all those blue points are not required to graph. You're just required to plot the initial 5 red points. Make your V. Oops, that was further. Let me go ahead and My domain, very similar to the last question, since I got arrows on both sides, my domain is all real numbers. My range, since my vertex is at negative 3, 0, and 0 is the y-coordinate, I'll be using that one. Since it opens down, it's going to be less than or equal to 0. And last thing, f of negative 4, remember x is the negative 4. So I'm going to come over here and find negative 4. I have to go down 1, so I know my point is at negative 1. All right, let's continue on. Looks like it's 6. Again, I notice I have absolute value bars, so I know I'm going to have a V-shaped graph. But before those absolute values, I have a negative. So I know I'm going to have a V-shaped graph, again, opening down. So that's it as a reflection. The horizontal shift comes from the number inside, so negative 1 means right 1, because number is always the opposite. And then plus 7, I keep the same sign, so it's plus 7. So my vertex, if I go right 1, it will be 1, and if I go up 7, it's 7. So my vertex is 1, 7. I'm going to go ahead and put 1 and a 7. And since my absolute value is opening down, I'm going to go right 1, down 1. That's honestly the biggest mistake is people forgetting that there is a reflection. So to avoid that, go ahead and sketch what the graph is supposed to look like first, so you know that you're supposed to go up or either. All right, so I go right 1, down 1, right 2, down 2. Come back to the vertex. I'm going to go, starting from the vertex, I'm going to go left 1, down 1, go back to the vertex. Left 2, down 2. So again, I can continue on my V, but you're only required to plot the first red points. But as you can see, I can keep going. So for example, I went left 4, down 4. So however you go right, you're going to go down the same amount. Domain, just like the last couple, arrows on both sides with all the numbers. And my range on my vertex is at 1, 7. Since that's the y-coordinate, I'll be using that coordinate. So since my range, and since my absolute value opens down, it's going to be less than or equal to, it's going to be less than or equal to that 7. All right, we're going to find f of 3. So number 3 is the x-coordinate, so x-axis. So I come over 1, 2, 3. I got to go all the way up to this point right here, which is 5. All right, final example. Now, if you notice, look, I have parentheses and squared. Remember, so that's what we did yesterday. So this is an absolute, this is a quadratic. So it's going to be a U-shaped graph. Remember, since it's a different function, I'm going to have a different pattern. Since there's no negative inside those parentheses, on the outside, there is not a reflection, so it's going to open up. But I still determine the horizontal shift exactly the same. So plus 1 means left 1, minus 6, 2 down 6. And so my vertex is going to be negative 1, 6. I'm going to go ahead and plot negative 1, negative 6. So I have to remember my pattern for my U-shaped graph. Remember, it's right 1, up 1. Go back to the vertex. When I go right 2, remember I go up 4, because 2 squared is 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Go back to the vertex. I go left 1, up 1, go back to the vertex, left 2, up 4. Make your U. Domain, like all quadratics, going to be all the numbers because I got arrows on both sides. My range, now remember my vertex is 1, negative 6. So since negative 6 is the y-coordinate, I'll be using that number. And since it opens up, it's going to be greater than or equal to that negative 6. Alright, we're going to find f of 0. So 0 is the x-coordinate, so it's right here. And go ahead to go down to negative 5. Find f of 0. Alright, please go ahead and stop the video to complete tonight's